This article that my longtime friend Amit Sharabi shared on Facebook is so good it's worth reading and posting as a podcast. And it's on this site called FreeJupiter. And it's called Habits of People Who Don't Need Any Friends But Always Get Misjudged. So Amit Sharabi, he's a photographer. I met him when he was studying photojournalism in Los Angeles. I had recently moved to Los Angeles, and we happened to live right across the hall from each other. He's an amazing person, and I could always tell that he enjoyed his solitude just as I did, but we always managed to spend hours sitting in each other's company, drinking tea or coffee. And even I spent more time with him even than my roommate, Kevin Green, who's also a really great longtime friend of mine. One of the few people that I've known for as long as and continue to stay in touch with as long as Amit. Even though as friends, we don't need to constantly be, in each other's DMs or on the phone with each other. We still have that brotherly love for each other. And Amit and Kevin, both, are huge influences on me, the direction I took for my doctoral thesis in metaphysical sciences. I knew them both at the time when I signed up for the class, and it took me 16 years to get it done, but it was all started by seeds that were planted by those two gentlemen and others. Another great friend of mine, Christine, who we keep in touch with. We were once a couple, but she is now married. She has a couple kids, but every once in a while she'll send messages to say what's up, or I'll say hello to her for her birthday or whatever, because she's a very special person, one of those rare beings on this planet who is just a being of pure love. And I'm not talking about romantic love. I mean, she just is a person who is if one of the closest things to a benevolent deity that I've ever known. And I really mean that. So these people, Kevin, Christine, Amit, and Flor, who's no longer in this physical world, my wife, have really, I believe that all the time that it took to get to finishing that, all of those things needed to happen. I just rewatched the film Arrival last night, and it reminded me of how parallel that was with my own life and my experience with Flor Elizabeth Carrasco. I knew very early on that she would be dead, out of my life, because she would die. But I still chose to experience her in my life because it's worth it. That's really, if you look at the movie Arrival, that was what I got from it. People might have different perspectives, but it wasn't about the aliens and the linguistics and the physics. It was about, even though we know that we can lose that and whom we love the most, it's still worth it to experience that. So I've chatted on for 4 minutes here about that, but it's very important. This article on FreeJupiter called Habits of People Who Don't Need Any Friends But Always Get Misjudged. And remember, it says don't need any friends. Doesn't mean don't want sometimes, right? That's why I named those people. That's why I named Amit, Kevin, Flor, Christine. Very important people in my life. And each one of them have contributed greatly to my understanding of success, which I really live by the definition of success that Earl Nightingale laid down in his 1956 recording called The Strangest Secret, which is that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that is actually I've only gotten to the third point in this article, but I know that it's worth reading. And that's part of the vibe that I'm getting from this. All right, so again, on FreeJupiter.com, this is called Habits of People Who Don't Need Any Friends But Always Get Misjudged. And there's a caption, there's a photo here, which is great. And it's the silhouette of a woman. It's a black and white photo, and she's walking down this long road. It's a beautiful image. And the caption says, "These are the people who don't need a buzzing phone or a packed social calendar to feel whole." And the image is from FreePic, which is where the AI-assisted authors who write on my websites like exercisingyourmind.com, hypnoathletics.com, and others, they use that as well as other sites to do their images. So let's get into this here. All right. Again, I'm going to say the title one more time. Habits of People Who Don't Need Any Friends But Always Get Misjudged. Let's get one thing straight from the start. Being alone isn't the same thing as being lonely. In a world that practically worships social media followers, group selfies, and the art of being seen, there's something quietly radical about someone who genuinely enjoys their own company. These are the people who don't need a buzzing phone or a packed social calendar to feel whole. They don't ghost their friends out of spite, nor are they socially anxious misfits hiding under blankets. They're just wired differently. And yet, because this is so against the grain, they often get pegged as weird, arrogant, or cold. But let's zoom in a little closer. What really sets these individuals apart? Why do they seem perfectly fine, even flourishing, without traditional friendships? And what's going on in that mysterious inner world of theirs? Here are 8 deep-rooted habits shared by people who thrive solo, not because they're incapable of friendship, but because they found another way to live, love, and grow. And so I've decided I'm going to post this, before I continue, I'm going to post this on worldreadingclub.com. And I'll put the link to this there as well, of course, as the source. Every once in a while. This is how World Reading Club, part of it started, online at least in the podcast, was reading articles, mostly from Neuroscience News. But here we go. Number 1. This is so on point. Number 1. Their inner world is a wonderland. Ask someone who enjoys solitude what they're thinking, and don't be surprised if their answer sounds like a philosophical riddle. Their minds are rarely quiet, but not in a chaotic way. It's more like a well-worn library where every thought, memory, and possibility is carefully cataloged and frequently visited. They can spend hours reflecting on conversations, replaying events, or inventing entire parallel realities. They're often excellent storytellers, idea generators, or quiet artists, because their imagination isn't just a tool, it's a playground. I have to pause again here. Just like today, for example, I went to this cafe. I was outside by myself. I had a brief encounter with one of the baristas in there when she came out to close up the umbrellas on the outside. It's a place called Badass Coffee, by the way, which is a badass place in Virginia Beach. But most of the time I was out there, I was just recording a reading of my thesis for my podcast, also on World Reading Club. And then after that, I closed up the umbrella myself and tied it up because, I was there for a couple minutes after they closed. And then I went down the street, moved my car a little ways down the road where there were some trees and some shade, pulled out a stool that I specifically bought from Walmart so that I could play my guitar on anywhere and have a comfortable seat, and just sat in the shade of a tree and just played the guitar by myself. No one was out there on the street, just me. And that's what I was doing, what I was enjoying. And what was really amazing was I noticed an improvement in my playing, and there was like an automatic rhythm that my hand took over that was completely different from my voice. It's just amazing. That's why this article, Amit posted this. He doesn't post a whole lot of stuff like this, but it's spot on. Let me continue now. I'm going to continue. This rich mental landscape means they never really feel bored. I gotta comment on that again. That's the thing. People talk to me all the time, and they say, "Oh, do you get bored?" No, I don't get bored. And I like a line that I say, and I'm not trying to insult anyone, but I just like it's very potent. So I say only boring people get bored. I don't get bored because I'm not boring to myself. Okay, so continuing. This rich mental landscape means they never really feel bored. A silent room becomes an opportunity, not a void. And because they derive so much satisfaction from this inner world, they're less reliant on outside noise or validation. Quirky truth. They might come off as in their own heads, but to them, that head is a 5-star resort with a view. 2. They treat their energy like a rare currency. You know that feeling when you leave a social event and your brain feels like overcooked spaghetti? These people really know that feeling, and they plan their lives around avoiding it. For them, socializing, even with people they like, can be like spending from a limited energy budget. It's not that they dislike others, it's that their emotional battery drains faster in crowds, small talk, or environments that feel overstimulating. They tend to carefully choose who, what, and when they engage with others. Even casual interactions like answering a text or making small talk at the grocery store are done with intention. It's not aloofness, it's self-preservation. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why also Amit and I, Kevin and I, Flor and I, Christine and I could all spend hours and hours talking to each other because it wasn't small talk. It wasn't just, I don't know. Some people might feel like it's putting them down, but we're just not the same. The thing is, I remember people trying to criticize me and say, why does everything always have to be so grand with you? It's not. That's just really how I am all the time. That's where my mind is at. That's where my friends that I mentioned here, Flor, Christine, Kevin, and Amit, that's where we're at. That's just the way it is. Real talk. I'm continuing now. Real talk. Think of them as emotional introverts with a strong firewall. It's not personal, it's bandwidth management. 3. This is one of my favorites, and this is where I got to where I decided that I needed to read this and record it as a podcast with my own commentary, as you can hear, by the way. But this is great. So 3, and I even wrote a comment on Amit's post of this where I simply put purpose is greater, put the greater than sign, popularity. They're fueled by purpose, not popularity. Scroll through social media, and it's easy to get the impression that successful life includes a large group of friends, constant meetups, and endless shared brunch photos. But for people who thrive without traditional friendships, the measure of a good life looks very different. They're driven by projects, passions, and ideas. Instead of wondering who's hanging out with them, they're more likely to be experimenting with a new hobby, working on a passion project, or simply diving into a rabbit hole of research that fascinates them. This is just Amit said the same thing on his post. This is what's really amazing about this, is that the words he put on there were so few, but it's exactly what he wrote. Finally, someone else who gets the idea by every word. That's what he put. It's exactly spot on. Finally, someone else who gets the idea by every word. That's what, when I'm reading this, I just wonder. It's amazing. All right. Cool. So continuing, they're driven by projects, passions, and ideas. Instead of wondering who's hanging out with them, they're more likely to be experimenting with a new hobby, working on a passion project, or simply diving into a rabbit hole of research that fascinates them. These are the folks who will spend a week redesigning their workspace just for the vibe, or writing a poem they'll never show anyone. The sense of flow and fulfillment they get from these moments outweighs the thrill of social popularity. Big picture. They may not chase clout, but they're building something that matters to them. That's their fuel. 4. Self-reliance isn't just a skill, it's a lifetime. It's a lifestyle. And by the way, I can already tell by now that just like how I do, this article was put forth by someone who understood this very well and then edited it with AI, which is often what I do. Is I speak my own voice just like I'm doing right now with this recording, and then I'll have the transcript and summarized, and then I'll feed that to DeepSeek and have DeepSeek help me create a title, a description, and the tags and everything like that. After I've read, or I've stream of consciousness spoken about a podcast, whatever idea was on my mind at the time, and then I'll have the AI help me to package it all together. But anyway, all right. So again, number 4, self-reliance isn't just a skill, it's a lifestyle. People who live without a strong social circle develop a kind of internal toolkit most others don't even realize exists. When something goes wrong, their first instinct isn't to call a friend, it's to troubleshoot, research, journal, and figure it out themselves. I mean, the other day I cut my finger really bad with a knife doing a leather project. And I mean, it took a huge chunk of skin was just flapping off. And I didn't scream, yell. I thought for a moment, I was like, this looks like something that needs to get stitches. It's going to leave a scar. There's a big piece of skin hanging off there. It was on my left hand. Am I going to be able to play my guitar? But that very same day I played my guitar. I simply went and bought some Band-Aids and bandages. I poured lavender oil. I know I'm a crazy person, and that's some people think. But I alternated putting on bandages and taking off. It's been bleeding on and off here and there days, but it's healing. And I've been able to play my guitar. One day I spent like 4 hours playing my guitar and blood was dripping down my hand. But it wasn't so much that I was dizzy or anything. I just knew what to do. I don't know. That's getting a little bit too gory in the literal sense of the word. But for some reason, that's what came to my mind there. Okay. So troubleshoot, research, journal, and figure it out themselves. And I've had cuts before that I know that they heal well on their own as long as I clean it and let it get some air so it can breathe, so that the blood will clot and dry on it and start the wound healing process by itself. All right. So continuing. Over time, this builds resilience. Okay, I got to say something too. Don't do that, people, with your cuts and stuff like that, unless you know what you're doing. This is probably going to leave a weird scar on the knuckle of my middle finger of my left hand. But I'm not concerned about scars. So some people might be. You might have some part of your body or something that this happens. You don't want to do that. You want to go get your stitches so that you don't have some weird looking scar on your body. I'm not concerned about those kind of things. And my hand is able to fully function. I didn't cut a muscle or a nerve or a blood vessel, major blood vessel or anything like that. So anyway, there's that. You really need to take care of your stuff, go to your doctor, do that stuff like that. I'm just wired differently that way. So, but I just want to make that clear. That I don't recommend that other people do that if it's not something that you're accustomed to, as I am all my whole life, doing stuff like this. All right, so continuing. Over time, this builds resilience. They know how to comfort themselves after disappointment, how to make decisions without constant second opinions, and how to motivate themselves through hard seasons. It's not always easy, but it's incredibly empowering. Quiet power. They're like emotional engineers, always tweaking, maintaining, and upgrading their mental systems. 5. They're patient, focused, and unbothered by FOMO. Instant gratification is everywhere. Likes, swipes, replies, delivery in 15 minutes or less, but the solo thrivers are playing a completely different game. They're often good at resisting distractions and holding off on shallow pleasures if it means working towards something more meaningful. This might look like skipping a party to continue writing a novel that no one's read yet, or spending the weekend deep in a do-it-yourself project instead of social hopping. And guess what? They rarely feel like they're missing out. If anything, they're relieved. They know that lasting fulfillment comes from things built slowly and intentionally. I mean, he was right, man. This is so spot on. Again, what he wrote was finally someone else who gets the idea by every word. I mean, it's that. Amit, thank you for sharing that on your Facebook, dude. It's incredible. It reminds me, the other day I ran into the general manager of One Life Fitness Red Mill, where I have a membership. I rarely go, but Liz Cartwright, amazing woman, friends with my sister. I actually worked there for a little while. Liz is an amazing person. But I ran into her at a Food Lion the other day, and just for a few minutes I saw her, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm a late bloomer, but I finished my Ph.D." And she just looked at me. She says, "That's what you do. You just move in silence." I remember specifically those words she said, moving in silence. She said, that's how you do it. You move in silence. Which, of course, I don't know exactly what she's thinking, but probably because nobody knew about it until it was finished. And I started posting about it and reading, tons of people have no idea because that's not what it's about. I mean, if you look at my Facebook page, for example, you'll see that what I post is 99.999% of stuff that I'm interested in. It's like my notebook or things that I'm actually doing. And because I'm just always doing something that I enjoy. So, continuing. All right, this is 22 minutes now. It doesn't matter. This is just really great. This is worth me reading through all of this. It's like a really great kind of echo chamber. This is the kind of echo chamber that I like to be in, that someone else really does get it. And I knew Amit always got it. So, all right, continuing. Discipline decoded. Their lifestyle isn't about avoiding fun. It's about choosing what kind of joy is worth their time. I mean, that is just so spot on. It's like the reason why I'm completely straight edge. Because unless you consider coffee and caffeine, right? I like caffeine and coffee and adrenaline, working out, that kind of stuff. So, but because being drunk, being high, all the other stuff that I could possibly be doing is just, it takes too long to recover. And for me to be in my own mind doing the things that I want to. Some other people can function that way, I think, but it doesn't work for me. It always reminds me of that passage in the Bible that says, you cannot serve two masters. One cannot serve God and mammon or something like that. All right. Okay. So 6, they curate relationships like rare art. Instead of collecting people like social trophies, these individuals are incredibly selective about who gets access to their world. Their relationships, when they do exist, are based on depth, honesty, and mutual understanding. They don't need 10 friends who half listen. They'd rather have one person who gets them, or none at all, if no one fits that description at the moment. Man, this is just... it's almost like my mind is being read on here. Continuing. This might be hard to understand for those who equate friendship with quantity, but for them, silence is better than small talk. Oh my God. I mean, every line of this thing is just incredible. Continuing. Solitude is preferable to fake smiles, and if companionship doesn't add peace, it's simply not invited. No clutter zone. Their emotional space is sacred, and they keep it clean. 7, they notice things others don't. When you're not constantly distracted by group dynamics or endless chatting, you start to pay closer attention to the world around you. People who spend a lot of time alone often develop a sharp eye for detail, And not just physical details, but emotional ones too. This is so true. Continuing. They might notice the tension behind someone's smile, the change in a friend's texting pattern, or the subtle shift in someone's energy during a conversation. They read people without trying to. They observe, digest, and remember. This makes them great artists, analysts, writers, or empaths, though they may never call themselves that. Their radar is just finely tuned, thanks to years of quiet observation. Their hidden gift? Emotional X-ray vision. 8. They feel whole, even without a social mirror. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding is this: you must be so lonely. But that's often not true. Many of these people feel more at peace without the constant need to perform socially. They know what they love. They pursue it. They don't need likes, comments, or company to feel seen. And when they do feel something big, grief, joy, nostalgia, they express it through channels that feel natural to them. Art, journaling, nature walks, music, or even just thinking deeply in silence. This is, wow. They've made peace with the quiet, and in doing so, they've tapped into something a lot of people never find: inner fulfillment. The truth bomb. Feeling seen isn't always about who is watching, it's about whether you're looking inward. The bigger picture. They're not broken, just built differently. Let's be clear. This lifestyle isn't better or worse. It's just different. And for many, it works beautifully. And that's exactly, what I was attempting to say before, is not putting anybody down. We're not better, right? It's just different. This is just how I need to be. This is how we need to be. Continuing. Our culture tends to prize extroversion, group photos, and busy schedules. So anyone who opts out of that rhythm can seem strange. But solitude isn't a red flag. It's just another flavor of contentment. These solo thrivers often operate with more clarity, focus, and emotional stability than many of their socially saturated peers. They're not missing something. They've just found something else: autonomy, inner peace, and a connection to self that doesn't require external applause. So, if you recognize yourself in this, don't panic, don't second guess, and definitely don't let others convince you that your quiet life is a sad one. You're not broken, you're not lonely, you're not doing life wrong. You're just navigating the world on your own terms, with depth, intention, and a kind of magic that most people will never understand until they slow down and try it. And that's something to be proud of. And it looks like here, finally, I didn't see the author in the beginning. Was her name up there? Yeah, it was. So this was published by Sarah Avi, July 17th, 2025, so just yesterday. And let's take a look at Sarah Avi. Let's see what it says about her. It has a little bio here for her at the end. So Sarah Avi is one of the authors behind FreeJupiter.com, where science, news, and the wonderfully weird converge, combining cosmic curiosity with a playful approach. She demystifies the universe while guiding readers through the latest tech trends and space mysteries. Well, that's right up my alley. It looks like I'm going to have to be following this Free Jupiter. I had no idea about this before, but this is just my sort of thing as well. And it seems like she's using the same tools and has a similar passion stream as my own. That's pretty cool. All right, that's from FreeJupiter.com. Again, it's called Habits of People Who Don't Need Any Friends, but Always Get Misjudged. And I want to just give a big shout out and thank you to all those amazing people who I just named, that's just a handful of them, to my beloved Flor Elizabeth Carrasco, I dream about you every day and every night, and to Christine, to Kevin, and to Amit. You all are great influences in my life, and you're the fuel to my fire. Even though you don't hear from me every day and we don't interact all the time, I love all of you, and I really appreciate everything that you've shared with me in life. So, I am Dr. Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander. I'm reading this for worldreadingclub.com. Thank you, Amit, for posting this on Facebook and sharing it. And until next time.